All right, got another quick intro for you today because I'm trying to get these last two videos wrapped up so I can head out to the farm for Christmas. Hello everybody, welcome to Savage Flies. I'm Matt, thanks for stopping by. So I was flipping through Federation of Fly Fishers Pattern Encyclopedia, as I like to do, flipping through the all-purpose nymph sections, and I came across one called the Lord Grey. Now I'm thinking, this has got to be a popular fly, right? It sounds kind of familiar, but I did some research and it's not. There is no information out there on this pattern. Now, it was tied in this book by a guy named George Hammerling. Also, I couldn't find any information on George. So I would call this a semi-forgotten fly. Now, it's basically just kind of a generic mayfly imitation. So a pretty standard nymph, not hard to tie, just two materials. You've got some partridge and then some squirrel dubbing, and three materials if you count the wire rib. But it's a cool pattern. I know it's going to be effective, and I think y'all are going to like it. Let's give it a shot. So there's one in the vise, a Lord Grey nymph. Now, best sizes for this guy, 12 to 18. I'm going to tie it on a 12. It's a 1X long standard nymph hook. Let's get that fixed in there. And I'm going to use a gray thread. My go-to 70 denier. I'll lay a base down to the start of the bend. And that looks like I nicked that right there. That's how we fix this. Use a few extra wraps. No big deal. Okay, now let's get our thread back here. We're going to catch in a tail. It's not a big tail at all. Just a couple little wisps. And I'm going to grab one of these partridge feathers right here. Just one of these. They're kind of small that I probably wouldn't use for anything else. And I'm just going to grab about 10 of these little small guys right here. And I might need to do two. We'll see. That right there. Let's just catch this in. Little pinch wrap. And let's take a look. Is that going to be enough? That's actually going to be fine. So I don't need to grab another clump. I'm just going to go ahead and bury this right here. And take my thread up, I don't know, 2/3 or so. And for the rib, I'm using a silver wire in size small. I'm sure you could go up to a brassy if you wanted on this size 12. And for you new tires out there, keep in mind that the sizes for this UTC Ultra Wire, it's extra small, small, brassy, medium, and large. So brassy is not a color, it's a size of wire in between small and medium. And that took me my first year of tying to realize that brassy wasn't a color, it's a size. So let's go ahead and catch this in right back here to the tail. Now let's put some dubbing on. And I'm using squirrel, so I'm definitely going to put a little wax on right here. And the back part of my dubbing, I'm using straight up 100% squirrel, just guard hairs, under fur, all mixed up, thrown in my coffee grinder, and then just put on my thread just like this. Now this doesn't necessarily dub all that tight, but I'm not worried about it because I've got that rib and I can use that rib to really lock this in. So go ahead and let's get about 3 inches or so right here, and we're going to dub it up to about the first half to 2/3. And it's going to be buggy, and that's great because that's actually what we want. Okay, very buggy. Now let's go ahead and wrap this rib. And I'm going to put this in pretty tight and pretty close together. I don't think the intent of this rib is really to give it any flash. It might give it a little bit of flash, but I really think it's just to make it a more durable fly. And it kind of helps you shape this underbody as well. When you got the wire up front, let's go ahead and catch it off with a couple wraps. I'm going to put some tension on my thread, bring that wire up forward, take a couple more wraps going forward, and what that does for me when I lift it up, I can spin this off without it risking unraveling on me. So take our thread right back, we're going to catch in a wing case. Now here's a situation where you could use anything you want. I'm just going to take another one of these underused feathers from this partridge, this one right here. There's not a whole lot of use for this guy, so I'm just going to take some of these side fibers because they're pretty long, and I'm going to grab about 10 of them, and I'm going to catch it in, and I'm going to have to do 2 because I want the wing case to be just a little bit thicker than that. So let's go ahead and catch this in right here. Just a couple wraps going to be fine. See, if I folded that over as my wing case, I don't think that's really enough. So I'm going to grab another clump about that same thickness. Okay, that one right there. This one's got a little bit of the brown in it, and that's perfectly fine. In fact, I think it's going to look cool. So let's get that caught in a little bit farther back because I want to, I don't want a tiny wing case. I think that's going to be about far enough back right there. And you can either snip those excess stubs off or just bury them. I'm going to bury them. I think that's going to be fine. Now I'm going to go back to my dubbing, put a little wax on here first. And this one, I'm going to change up my dubbing a little bit. So for the thorax dubbing, I'm using squirrel again, but this is one that I've mixed in with some acrylic and dark gray. And I'm using this one for a couple of reasons. Since I'm not ribbing it, this acrylic does help it dub just a little bit tighter, and I'm using a darker because I want the thorax to be just a little bit darker than the body. So let's get a tight noodle on right here, maybe a little bit less than we had before, but maybe about the same. I think we'll be fine. Okay. Now it's a little bit hard to see, but that is definitely a darker dubbing than what I have on the back. And before we flip this wing case over, we're going to go ahead and tie a collar hackle that we're going to push down for legs. So this one, I do want to take one of my better feathers from this Hungarian partridge, and let's just grab the tips, create a little notch. I think that's going to be fine right there. And I'm going to try to catch it in with the concave side toward the hook. That doesn't always work, but we'll see if it does. Don't want to crowd my eye, so let's take these wraps going back just a little bit. And I can actually fold that over on itself to really lock it in. A couple extra wraps. I still got this tip. Need to snip that off. So this is going to be my hackle. And I'm going to use my hackle pliers here because I don't have much to work with. I'm only going to do 1 wrap. So I'm going to wrap it around, bring it back up to this other side, and catch it off. If you wanted to do 2 wraps, you could, but you'd probably want to strip off all the fibers from one side of this feather. I'm a little bit too lazy to do that, so I'm just going to use both sides of it, and then I might end up having to trim some in the end in the cleanup phase, but we'll see when we get there. So let's go ahead and snip this excess off right here. Is that going to be too many legs? I don't know. I think we're going to be fine. Just going to try to push them off to the side, pull them down, and then a few extra thread wraps going back. And we can use this wing case right here. Got some fluff going forward. That's kind of annoying. A little bit of squirrel, it looks like. But we can use this wing case to help position these legs if we want to. So I'm just going to try to keep them separate, grab this wing case, fold it over right here, and it will get a decent little carapace shell back here. So let's do 2 wraps right here before we snip off this front excess. Maybe 3. Nope, that one did not go down like I wanted. I don't want to be pushing this too far forward, and my thread is sliding on me. So I'm going to back that up 1 turn, and then a couple of turns right there so that I can lift that up and snip it off shorter. So let's get this in here and snip just this wing case. And we'll take a look at these legs. If we got any cleanup, we're probably going to have some trimming or plucking to do in just a second. But a few extra wraps right here, right back to my eye, and I'll build a little ramp. Don't be afraid to put a big old nymph head on this thing. It is a nymph. And we are going to put some head cement on it, make it a nice hard shiny head too. Okay, I think that's going to be fine right there for a head. Let's do a whip finish and then we'll see if we got any cleanup. Okay, let's take a look. Fish's view right there. Yeah, I'm gonna snip a couple of these off the bottom right here so that I've just got my legs coming off to the sides. And I got one crazy one right there. I'm gonna have to snip that. But there we go. That's about how many legs I want, maybe 4 or 5 off of each side. And we got a decent looking profile and a decent looking thorax right there. So I'm happy enough with this guy. This is gonna be a fishable fly. A little drop of head cement and this guy's ready to go in my box. So that's it, everybody. I appreciate you watching. Y'all take care and we'll see you next time.